Tonight, the SSRL Truck Series Championship comes down to one race. Tonight, the championship comes down to a race from the Irish Hills of Michigan. We're live in Brooklyn, Michigan, at iRacing's virtual Michigan International Speedway for tonight's coverage of the final race of the season here on Grid Vision. I'm Justin Prince alongside Ms. Nick Stein with Austin Darbyshire producing as we look to see how drivers fare out from the 2-mile circuit known as Michigan, Nick.
Yeah, Michigan International Speedway, known as one of the fastest tracks in America, tonight is going to be a very, very fun race to watch. Of course, championship battle, not really much of a battle right now, as according to some very, very crude math, Brandon Edstrom has pretty much locked up the championship by starting tonight's race. So, not much of a battle there, but still a ton of other exciting battles throughout the field when it comes down to who's going to finish where in the points. And, of course, it's Michigan. It's a plate track with the trucks, and feels going to get kind of tight as well with what I'm hearing for strategy for some of these guys. So we are in for a very, very, very good race tonight.
Yes, indeed, and it's going to be an interesting one with how these drivers in turn are going to have to deal with the conditions. We'll talk about how this track could be tricky in a bit. You mentioned Edstrom with tonight. Such we can lock up the championship with Philip Henry, Blair Hollyman, Mike Burnett, and Kendall Levron amongst those in the conversation throughout the season. You had Raymond Root for much of the campaign also in the conversation. He's still in the top 10 with Dave Foots Jr. and Burnham in front of him, Yost Jr. and Marty in the top 10. Been an interesting campaign, but in the end, consistency wins championships. Edstrom had one of the most consistent seasons you can have.
Yeah, I believe he had an average finish of about 6.1. I got to go look that up just to be absolutely sure, but I believe him and PB Henry were tied for average finishing position. So, yeah, it is a game of consistency here in the SSRL Truck Series. And if you take a look at some of the other leagues that run under the SSRL brand, it is the exact same thing there. The guys that are going to be most consistent, the guys that finish the highest consistently are going to be the ones in the championship battle. And it could have come down to the final race, but of course, Edstrom having that dominating performance last week at Rockingham, almost, for lack of a better word, sealed up the championship there.
And indeed, keep in mind, this is actually the final race of the year here on Grid Vision. And what's expected to be an interesting winter break, especially with the holidays coming up in just a couple days. I'd like to thank those who tuned along for our first year of operation here on Grid Vision and what's been an extremely busy season of racing from the onset. And tonight, we look to close things out in style here in Brooklyn, Michigan. Now, for those who just tuned in, and those who are tuning in for the first time to this series, remember, the qualifying format is group qualifying. Groups of about 3 hit the racetrack and try and set the fastest lap times possible, and in turn, look to see if they can start towards the front. Remember, it's grouped by slowest practice times to fastest practice times, and then those who did not set practice times round out the grouping. And keep in mind, already announcements coming through from the various different schedules coming up for Spartan Sim Racing League action for next spring onward. Already looking like a busy slate of races to be expected in terms of some of the discussions, not just the trucks, but you're talking Cup and the looking towards the ARCA side as well.
Yeah, there's also their Xfinity Series they're planning on starting, and I'm planning on racing in that myself as well. So they got an exciting slate of races to come up within the next calendar year. And of course, you take a look at our schedule as well here at Grid Vision. It's going to be an amazing year next year. I am very, very excited. I cannot wait.
Should be interesting to say the very least when we get to that point. To be precise, the ARCA side is during the winter time, but it's the Cash Dash that you're referring to in the Grand National Xfinity Series cars. There's the Mod Tour as well. That's set to be a full-time series that goes 1 week on, 1 week off, all the way to November. Meanwhile, we're underway for the start of qualifying, and several drivers looking to see if they can finish off the season right. Kendall Levron is a part of the first group here tonight. They usually see him towards one of the later groups, but a bit of a surprise with the 28. We'll see if he has speed in the race itself.
Yeah, just a little bit of a refresher here. Of course, the qualifying format, as you mentioned earlier, is group qualifying. You also got to remember it's based on the first groups are going to be the slowest times in practice. So Kendall Levron being the slowest car in practice with a 40.157. That means he's going to be the first car on track for qualifying, followed by Drew Prohl and Alan Pajari in this first grouping of cars. So It's something to keep in mind throughout the night. And Michigan is known as one of those tracks that gets faster as it rubbers in. So I think the guys at the end, the Raymond Roots, the Brandon Edstroms, Rob Yost is actually going to be third in the final grouping of qualifying too. So that's another name to keep an eye on as well.
So Levron on the track, Drew Prohl, as mentioned. Alan Pachari, a part of this first grouping of qualifiers. All these drivers set times in final practice in the 40-second bracket. Now keep in mind the fastest drivers usually end up in the 39-second bracket. Keep that in mind. White flag already up for all these drivers. Keep in mind, for the most part, the first lap in open racing seemed to be the quickest at Michigan last week. However, we'll see how these drivers fare out on Dustin Hall's setup here tonight. Of note, Dustin Hall is in the field tonight. You will see two Dustin Halls, though, on your screen because he accidentally tried to be the choose cone when he meant to be the race truck on the track tonight.
Yeah, Dustin Hall going to be under the name DS Hall tonight. Of course, he's going to be 18 in sim, but he will still be the number 2 on our timing and scoring. But Kendall Levron not improving on that second lap, so keep that in mind. I think you may be right with how qualifying is going to work tonight. Drew Prohl, a marginal improvement there as well, and then looks like Alan Pajari no, he's coming off of turn number 4 here. Let's see if he can improve on his lap. It'll be a big-time improvement for Pajari, up to a 39.9.
That's an improvement at least a tenth or two over his practice times as Fuchs Jr. comes across a 40.080. No improvement on the second lap. So, Pajari, the only driver to improve so far this qualifying session. So the next grouping of drivers set, looking like groupings of 4 compared to the groupings of 3 tonight, with it being the finale in a bigger field. Blair Hyman will lead off this group. Then it's Robert Lawrence. He's also joined this time by Kevin Sosiak and Mike Burnett. Of note, Sosiak now amongst those in the Team Conti camp, along with Lawrence, amongst that growing grouping. And Sosiak amongst those changing over from the Ladybug to the Black and Blue tonight.
Yeah, Kevin Zosiak, that is an absolutely nice scheme. I really like the color scheming he's got going on there. Maybe a contender for best scheme of the season so far, but I don't even think they have that award. But still, I think that's a really, really good scheme. Good-looking scheme on that 37 machine. But it's going to be our first grouping that we saw hit 39-second lap times in practice. So maybe something to keep in mind here as these guys do start to pick up the pace. And, more rubber getting laid on that track means these guys later and later in the groupings are going to be faster and faster. So that's something that's a little bit new with this this oval refresh as guys are still trying to get used to it.
White flags coming out for a lot of the drivers currently this time around. Of note, the next grouping is projected to be Holiday, Henry, Abert, and Trevor Howapov. Then Healy, Duke, Hall, Yost Jr., Edstrom, and Root at the top from there, depending on how the divide goes. White flag on track. Hollyman jumps to second, a 39.98. Robert Lawrence, he ends up putting on 39.929, top of the board for the Team Conti car.
Second Team Conti car in this grouping coming off of turn number 4 going to be Kevin Zosiak as he's coming down towards the finish line. He is going to set a 40.133, a little bit slower on that first lap compared to others, but here comes Mike Burnett across the line. 30.932, that's going to put him second on the boards, just 3 1/1000ths of a second off of pole there.
Checker flag waves on the track for the drivers. Lawrence still looking to bump up. Burnett got within 3 1/1000ths. Lawrence coming across the stripe for reference now did not improve. We'll see if the Ladybug improves from the 40.1. Of note, he's still working with Philip Henry tonight per se. Of note, Philip Henry is a part of the Legacy Academy, so we'll see how that partnership works tonight with that difference of the two and the rest of his team outside the series working together. No improvement. He's at the bottom of the board for the qualifying group. Mike Burnett, no improvement either. So as mentioned, the next group is Holiday, Abert, Howapov, and Henry. Well, Henry jumps his way to the line to try and get himself right in order. As a matter of fact, he went too far. In fact, he jumped in front of Abert. And that is correct in terms of the order. So here's a look at John Holiday. The 51 machine starts off the third group.
Yeah, third grouping on track now, and now is where we're going to really start to see whether or how the track is going to progress throughout the night, because there's been a few cars on track that have laid a little bit of rubber, so there's a little bit more grip on the track right now and a little bit more speed, because grip equals speed, and of course these guys trying everything they can to get as fast as possible. Of course, that mark being a 39.929 set by Robert Lawrence on the first lap in the last group, so it's going to be the benchmark these guys have to hit. It's green flag for John Holliday, PB Henry, Charles Abert, and Trevor Halapoff.
So come around this time by for said white flag. Keep in mind when it comes to these drivers, we've seen a lot of speed all throughout the season for Henry for a reason. He was second in the points entering tonight, mind you. Picked up his last win at Phoenix. The 25 machine's been quick all season, but keep in mind, just a couple races can be the difference. 14th, 16th, 14th, and 13th are his finishes outside the top 10. And when you factor in a couple of the drops and the fact that Edstrom's got more top 10s, that can be a big difference when two of your non-drops are outside the top 10 like Henry.
Yeah, and actually, fun fact, Philip Henry has a higher, average. Okay, English is apparently very hard, but give me 1 second. Philip Henry has a higher average finish compared to his championship rival Brandon Edstrom, and it's only by about 0.5 of a position. That's how close this battle is. PB Henry with a average finish of a 6.55, and Brandon Edstrom, of course, having a 7.09 average finish. Of course, those being the guys that have completed 11 races, of which there's only 5.
So check flags waving on the racetrack. Lawrence still atop of the board. Helipov up to 6th in this grouping. Abert still in 11th. Make that 2-12. And Henry able to jump up to 11th. Helipov. The last of those at speed with a chance to improve here in Helipov, keep in mind. Munt's one of the newcomers we've seen as of late. In fact, it's just his second start of the season. He had a DNF at Rockingham. This time, he's starting middle of the pack at the very minimum.
Okay, I do believe these final 2 groups are going to be groups of 3, considering there is only 6 cars left, which this next group is going to be Scott Healy, David Duke, and Dustin Hall, if that does hold true, which it looks like it will. So, going to have 2 3-car groups for the rest of this open qualifying session, as speak of the devil, Scott Healy's hitting the track now.
Dustin Hall just got the good to go as well, so you are right. So it is Duke and Hall that will close out this second to last group. Scott Healy, he's been on a tear as of late in qualifying as well as with short run pace. This is his 6th start of the season. He started on the outside front row at Rockingham. However, he had a DNF in that race after leading 4 laps in the early going. Also in the race, go ahead.
I was going to say, you remember back to our last plate race at Atlanta Motor Speedway. He actually, no, that wasn't at the plate version of Atlanta. Disregard what I said, because I don't know what I'm talking about, apparently.
Well, this isn't a plate track, but it drives like one. I get the thought process there. Track position's still very king for this track.
Oh, yeah, track position is 100% the most important part of Michigan International Speedway, and it is going to be something we're going to be talking about all night. These guys are going to want track position, especially with how the fuel strategy is going to play out tonight. I will get to that a little bit later as we get closer and closer to the green flag, but I will leave you with this. It is going to be very tight on fuel tonight. It is going to be a very tight race.
See how the lap times play out. Healy's already put up 40.087. This time by with the white flag for the 78 machine. It's Duke up to 3rd. But how does the setup builder play out? Dustin Hall from Team Conti, the main grouping, just crossed the line in a 39.9. He tied his teammate.
Wow. Tied on lap time after 2 laps. Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever seen a qualifying top 5 be this close. I mean, Pedrari's a bit of an outlier here, but 39.92, 39.92, 39.93, 33.9 or 39.93. Like, have you ever seen anything that close before?
I've seen very close in a lot of cases. No change for David Duke. But keep in mind, the drivers from the Team Conti side did have some speed during the official races in Open this week. We're seeing some of that especially when it comes to the qualifying pace coming in tonight once again. Last group just about set to go. Rob Yost Jr. finished third in practice. Raymond Root second in practice. Brandon Edstrom was just behind him in said group. So all drivers are set to go for the final grouping of the season for qualifying. Rob Yost Jr. leads off the final group, and for Rob Yost Jr., he's inside the top 10, looking to close out in the top 10 in points. Keep in mind, his highest starting position, 11th. Can he change that tonight to try and get his best finish? Start, should I say 10th from Kentucky?
I was going to say, Rob Yost Jr. is not a name we really call on this late in qualifying, as he's normally within the first group or two when it comes to how qualifying is set up, but he seems to have a very, very fast race truck, and he is primed to be able to beat that highest starting position of 10th place. And looking at some of these times, I could really see him, if he is able to put a really good lap together, I could see him getting into the top 5 on lap times, purely because of how close it is up there.
Green flag's already taken. Keep in mind, Edstrom amongst those keeping to the wall. Same for Raymond Root. So the Prodigy Esports drivers electing to stay topside for at least the first lap to build up some speed. We'll see if that works out. Oh, that's while Yost Jr. is coming across the line this time. 39.909, wow. Top of the board.
Okay, Yost, I see you, bro. Top of the board by 0.02 of a second there. Here comes Edstrom on his first lap. Going to be a 40.518. It looks like the Prodigy Esports machines are going to be setting up for a second lap qualifying attempt here. And this is going to be really, really fun to watch to see what these Prodigy boys can do, as Raymond Root with a 40.01. So these guys definitely setting up for that second lap. As we look towards Edstrom coming down the backstretch, rocketing down that backstretch, 185 miles down into turn number 3. And yeah, these guys get up to some insane speeds here at Michigan, and he looks like he's trying to hold that second line there. Coming off of turn 4, he's going to dip it way below the apron. Championship
he got
favorite.
Loose. But now it's a 40 flat, only 9th quickest. Can Raymond Root do any better? He was a little more stable. Last qualifier across the stripe, now the 7 truck did not improve either. So for the first time this season, Rob Yost Jr., who has an average starting position of 15.7, is on the pole.
Talk about unexpected there. One of the biggest curveballs we've seen this season when it comes to how things have played out, whether it be the race, whether it be starting position even. I don't think we've ever seen something like that.
Rob Yost Jr. able to find some qualifying speed and then some. So drivers getting themselves organized before we get themselves to the starting grid officially. Again, 80 laps your distance tonight. Couple drivers of note have requested a short break before we get to the gridding process. So we have been informed drivers will be taken to the racetrack in 2 minutes time. 2 minutes before we start off the final race of the season. Remember, the stage caution, lap 40. And let's take the time to mention, strategy going to be critical tonight. It was critical in the official races. It's likely to be the same tonight because you are crunching some numbers, and the numbers, well, they need a little bit stretching out, per se, if you want to make sure you get the right number.
Oh yeah, it is going to be incredibly close. They have a fuel limitation here in this league, and I believe it's set at 60% if I'm not mistaken. That may be wrong, so don't quote me on that. But as I was saying, these guys are going to be lucky to hit 20 laps for a fuel run. And of course, stage being at 40, the race end being at 80, it's going to get tight because you're going to need to fuel save just to be able to hit 20 laps a stint. And having to, it is going to be very, very tough to 3-stop this race. I think we're going to see a 4-stop tonight.
An interesting note, the 25 of Philip Henry noted before tonight, there was a chance he may have actually missed tonight's race because he had technical issues as early of this morning. He just informed the rest of the field, Nick, that he's going to try and give as much space as possible because of those potential issues that he was dealing with this morning.
Yeah, I think knowing the fact that he's not really going to have much of a chance to win the championship tonight is a big time factor in this decision because according to Dave Fuges and my math, even if Brandon Edstrom were to finish dead last or not even start this race would be counted as a drop week anyway. So Brandon Edstrom's lowest point total of the season being 64 points. No matter what, pretty much Edstrom has locked this championship up. So that is on both ends of the spectrum, that is, on one end, that is a very gratifying feeling knowing you really don't have to sweat out this race and just kind of have fun with it. But on the other end, it's kind of a depressing outlook on the race knowing you really don't have a chance at a championship after being so close for so long.
But in turn, expecting to get the command forward towards the starting grid procedure in just a couple moments or so. Mid-afternoon start in the set box. October 26th is the MSIM date for 2023. Keep in mind, the track temperature is getting lower as these drivers sit here. We'll see how the temperatures fare out when the race moves over to the gridding procedure in a couple moments' time. So, in your opinion, what are the keys to try and win tonight's race if you're thinking about just the overall win?
Well, obviously, you got to take a look at the fuel saving. It is going to be very, very difficult to hit 20 laps. I was talking to a few people, mainly Edstrom, as I was talking to him a little bit earlier, and he said he was having very, very high difficulty trying to save enough for 20 laps in a stint while running solo. And now remember, these guys are most likely going to be running in the draft for the majority of this race, so I think these guys are going to want to try to be the last car in line to save as much fuel as possible, so that could be something to watch tonight. But of course, you also got to work on saving that right rear tire. That's going to be the biggest key for these guys tonight. Or another big key tonight is saving that right rear, and of course, it being a big track with drafting potential, of course, you got to avoid the chaos associated with that.
Here's a look at your starting grid here tonight. It's Rob Yost Jr. on the pole. He set the pole time by a couple 100ths over the dead tie between the teammates of Robert Lawrence and Dustin Hall. Mike Burnett starts in fourth tonight. David Duke in fifth with Alan Bajari in sixth. Blair Hoyman alongside Raymond Root in the top eight. Brandon Edstrom with the start tonight locks up the championship for the Truck Series in its inaugural run. Dave Fuchs Jr., the boss man, starts alongside. Very likely can hand the trophy through the window net here.
Trevor Halapoff starting in 11th position with Kendall Levin rounding out your top 12. 13th position tonight going to belong to Scott Healy with Drew Prohl in 14th. John Holliday starting 15th with Kevin Zosiak in 16th. PB Henry starting 17th. Charles Aber is going to be starting shotgun on the field tonight.
Keep in mind, we have two drivers not making starts tonight. Jordan Sailors is the official safety cone / choose cone. Dustin Hall accidentally became a choose cone, but reverted it by having the power of a second iRacing account. It's the one use that it's actually good for. So in turn, who do you think gets the job done tonight at Michigan, especially when it comes to how intriguing this racing could be, because it's almost like a pack race, but it's also, depending on how the setup swings towards, a race where that right rear tire could be very, very slick.
Yeah, you know my outlook on these play or play-esque type races. It's really, really, really hard to be able to choose a winner. And I mean, you take a look at a track like this where it's pretty much flat out throughout the entire run. You could pretty much choose anyone in this field, and you could probably have a decent shot at making the right decision. But I'm going to go ahead and take Rob Yost Jr. I like that 83 truck. He showed speed in practice. He took the pole in qualifying, and man, starting from the front, that is a very good place to be when it comes to a race like this.
Yost Jr. already warming up the tires here as they launch for one final time this season for the SSRL Truck Series. First running of the series, as we talked about in its history, getting ready for season number 2. Just a couple months' time where we run all the way to November. And already looking at a stacked schedule of 24 races or so next season. Just about all set to go here. I'm very curious, I'll be honest, amongst the drivers on how Dustin Hall plays out, because he's ran a couple times with this field. He's, mind you, the setup builder after all. He started on the pole at Phoenix, finished 8th that race. I'm putting a star next to that driver, in my opinion, because of, well, he tends to jump into an SOF race, win the race, and then he's good for the week.
And that's a very good a pick right there. I think he's going to do really, really good. Of course, him having the experience of building the setup, but I still got to stick with my man Rob Yost and see where he can go. Of course, he's not a name we've called on very much this season, whether it be from spinning or being lapped, but he seems to be having a very fast truck, and I wonder what our producer's going to pick tonight.
He likes Robert Lawrence, and I wouldn't be surprised that's a good pick too. After all, he's one of the top drivers from Champion, and also has run a lot with the potential setup on hand in official races. So we'll see if the experience comes in on hand. We're all set to go. It's the season finale. We're underway for the SSRL Truck Series from Michigan.
Pretty even start between the two lines as Lorenz is already getting a push from the 39 of Mike Burnett, but Dustin Hall gets up to the 83 of Rob Yost Jr. and gets him going, and it's going to be another. It's not going to be as pronounced as, say, a plate track, but this is going to be a battle for momentum here as these guys these top two are pretty much going to be pushing the entire race tonight, so it's going to be something to keep an eye on, and we know how crazy plate races have gotten here in the SSRL Truck Series, so we're going to have to keep an eye on these top four.
Slide up for Yost Jr. as he moves up to the top line. Keep an eye on that line throughout the night on the front stretch. It's the 83 who leads the first lap in turn. Choo-choo train in effect. 3 wide of the back as Hollyman tries to drop back. Burnett going for the lead up front. He jumps to second instead.
Coming through turns 1 and 2 now, Yost starting to pull out a little bit of an advantage, but that's not something you really want to do because you need to save fuel, but they're almost wrecking back there. A little bit of contact between David Duke and RJ Root further back, but our eyes are on this battle for the lead here as Yost is starting to pull away a little bit. Looks like the other guys are deciding to choose saving fuel and saving tires over that clean air, and I kind of like that decision of trying to save a little bit of fuel, maybe try to turn this into a 3-stop race instead of a 4-stop.
We talked about how tight that can be. We'll see if that comes with some clutch and coasting a la Coca-Cola racing action that we've seen in the past. Remember, with the new oval revamp and some of the work put in for that, expect multiple lines to come into play, not just the usual first seam in turn 1 and 2, maybe to the yellow line in 3 and 4. No. You can make it work on all the grooves, essentially, if you put some good effort into it, especially up top in 1 and 2.
Oh, yeah. Michigan is known for one of those tracks being so many different grooves you can run, and as long as these guys put in the time to be able to make the lines work, as Mike Burnett to the outside of the 83 of Rob Yost for the lead. He had it for just a moment, but Yost sent it into the corner. But Mike Burnett's going to switch him back now, side by side for the lead up front. Mike Burnett and Rob Yost Jr. side by side right now, battling down the back straightaway. Burnett has the run, he has the momentum, and he will have the lead by the time they hit turn 4.
Mike Burnett clears. He's up to the point. Yost Jr. doesn't have any help to push. Lawrence and Hall both elect to choose Burnett. And drafting partners are going to be huge tonight. Because if you don't have help, it's hard to keep going forward when you have nobody to draft off of, let alone push you.
Now you look behind him, you see the Prodigy camp behind Edstrom and Root starting to get up in further into this lead battle here, and they're dragging a ton of cars with them. That top 4 had pulled out a little bit of an advantage as Yost goes for the lead again to the inside of the 39 of Mike Burnett. And it looks like by the time they get through the entry phase of the corner, Yost will have the lead, but Burnett switches them back. Mike Burnett goes with the up and under, and they are side by side once again, coming up to the start-finish line. This is going to be a close one. Give it to Yost by 2 1/1000ths of a second.
Still side by side, though. Burnett not afraid to chew up the tires below the seam again. And up to the lead yet again. Lawrence doing the same thing. He put the left side tires underneath the yellow line. Usually don't see that every day. Trouble at the back. Caution flag is out. Our first yellow, it's Henry and Levron who go around. And there goes the fuel strategy for at least this part of the stage. We're under yellow.
Looking at the grid vision replay. This is coming up off of turn number 2 where we see a lot of wrecks happen at Michigan. Henry gets loose Oh, and Levron gets under him and gives him a little bit of contact and sends the 25 spinning to the inside.
And that had nothing to do with the technical issues it looks like Henry was talking about earlier. That's a common issue where you see drivers come up off turn 2 from that inside line. If you're not all the way up to the wall, that can cause problems. Henry didn't go up to the wall at the time.
Yeah, if there was anything, there was not much room between those guys. As I I believe that may have been on Levron there, as just came up a little bit too quickly on the 25 of Henry. Then again, Henry did get loose, so I don't know how to call that, but I mean it could have been a little bit of the air. I don't know what I'm talking about right now.
I get what you mean.
Yeah.
But now, in turn, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of top-offs here.
Oh, for sure. We're going to definitely see at least half the field come down pit road here and top off the tank. At least get it past halfway, and Yost seems to be staying out. Burnett, though, fakes. As Halapov, Duke is staying out. Looks like most everyone's coming down pit road, so it looks like a few people deciding to stay out and try to push it for that 20 laps, and it looks like everyone else coming down to top off, as you said.
So in turn, you see the choose card tonight. Looks like may need a quick refresh because Jordan Sailors, for reference, you see that Cup car, is technically wearing his normal Cup Series scheme. Later on tonight, after our first break, you'll see that 88 turn into an orange car. Once that is set to go, drivers have to make sure they choose the right line because keep in mind this is a quick yellow racetrack. And this in turn means quick time for him to have to get set up here. Also of note, an interesting point, David Duke does have damage already. He picked up the damage, catching up to the field it looks like, and making contact with Halipov on the fake out. He's got right front quarter panel damage on the Filthy 5 car and truck.
Interesting, as the caution did come out, as they were. Where did he get that damage from? Looking back now, I'm not really seeing. Oh.
Pit stop.
Oh.
You get exactly how that could happen, huh?
Yeah, I just went back to look at it. Oh, yeah. That is not good there. It really shouldn't hurt him too badly aerodynamic-wise, but still something to keep in mind. If you do decide to fake out, you got to watch for the car on the outside.
Or in this case, the truck. Or in our cases, the SUV. Depends on what you consider a car. It looks like the choose car is not out here right now. But drivers have been told to choose manually instead. So Jordan Sailors apparently missed the command for his act of duty as the choose car. So in turn, Burnett chooses bottom, Yost Jr. chooses top, Duke chooses bottom, Halipov chooses top.
I'm looking back through the field, and if they're going to be enforcing choose cone penalties here, then I believe Drew Prohl and even Dave Fuchs Jr. will be getting choose cone violation penalties, as they were within the no-no zone when it comes to the choose cone. So we'll have to see if those are enforced, but something to keep in mind without the choose card to show the danger. It looks like some people may have taken the day off when it comes to getting into their respective lines.
Counterpoint. There wasn't a cone there. That's why you have to have a car for it. Sometimes.
Counterpoint. Rules exist.
Counterpoint. The rules say a car needs to be there.
Counterpoint. Rules.
We're coming up to lap 10, by the way, so as we get sorted out and situated here, it's Burnett, Yost Jr., Duke, and Halipov all staying out, everybody else topping off. Lawrence Hall, Edstrom, Healy, Root, and Prohl are your top 10 on the racetrack. Pace car is off, restart zone, right around the barrels. Green, 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 back underway. And a good launch for the inside. Burnett already clear.
Mike Burnett gets clear, and it looks like the 78 of David Duke may get clear as well before they get to the entry of turn 1. Yep, it does look like they will.
Hills Jr. in turn gets shuffled back a couple spots as up to third goes Lawrence off the jump. Inside line, the better line on the starts usually. Expect that to swap by the front.
Duke making the move to the inside. David Duke, Mike Burnett side by side for the lead here. And it looks like Duke may have the help in the corner as Robert Lawrence, Rob Yost, Halapoff even looking to the inside as Edstrom further back. Looking to the inside of the 13 of Trevor Halapoff. Things are kicking off in the top 8 or 9 so far as David Duke's going to get clear of the 39 of Mike Burnett up front. And it looks like Edstrom having a bit of struggles trying to get around the 13 of Halapoff is 3 wide further back. Dustin Hall takes it all the way to the outside. 3 wide for the lead, too.
Able to sit by Burnett. That was close to door-to-door contact. He's able to get away with it. He clears all the lanes. Can he get to the bottom for the arc? Lawrence gives him a little bit of a break. Burnett plays it to the middle just in case here. Yost Jr. gets shuffled to the bottom as here comes Hall trying to build a run.
Halapoff looked 4 wide for just a moment, but thought better of it as now he's looking 3 wide on Yost Jr. and David Duke. Duke goes up to block. He takes the line with Lawrence. Lawrence, Duke, Halapoff, all in that third line. This is what we were talking about earlier with the multiple lines being able to run, as it looks like the majority of the lines are already working, which is not something we're used to seeing here at a track like Michigan, as now Robert Lawrence and David Duke to the inside of the 39 of Mike Burnett.
Lawrence drafts his way by, up to the point. Offset 3 wide as here comes Dustin Hall. He elects to go back to the middle.
Halapoff running. Oh, sorry.
You're mentioning the damage potentially not being a big factor for Duke. That's so far been working out. Despite the damage, he's keeping up with the speed. Usually most drivers with that damage are struggling.
Yeah, usually with the old damage model, at least on the trucks, if you had that hit anywhere, you would be screwed for the rest of the race. But it seems like that new damage model they released for the trucks this last build has really started to work. And, you know, a hit like that, like I said, would pretty much end your race. But it seems like it's not really being that much of a factor as it should be.
In turn, Burnett's up to the point for the time being. Up to third is Hall. Halapoff trying to get things working. No, that's not going to work out. So in turn, here comes the teamwork. The Team Conti cars inside. Lawrence inside to the point. Hall not afraid to go to the old line to try and make the move for second.
It looks like we're over that grace period when it comes to being nice to each other, as these guys have immediately kicked off, as Mike Burnett throwing an insane block on the 2 of Dustin Hall there for second position. That's going to allow him to attack the 23 of Robert Lawrence. Side by side once again for the lead. Burnett has the nose off the corner. Dustin Hall going to leave him out to dry as he goes to the middle. 3 wide for the lead. Coming across the line, who are they going to give it to? Robert Lawrence by 18 hundredths of a second. Make it less than a half of a tenth of a second between your top 3.
Remember, 7 laps difference amongst those who stayed out. Burnett, Duke, Halapoff, and Yost Jr. compared to everybody else who can go a little further. Halapoff tried to clear on by. Instead, he gets scuffed up into the wall. He's still up in the wall nearly. The EXP Realty machine get a little bit scuffed up after some moments there. And that drops him to the mid-pack for the time being. So for now, the top 2 are those who already topped off. Burnett and Duke, next in line, have to come in about 10 laps time at most.
I would go 4 laps at most, as 20 is about the limit. And our original fuel window was between 16 and 20 laps. With that caution, maybe extended a lap as Burnett going for the lead on Dustin Hall. And right behind him, a couple names we haven't called on that much this race. Scott Healy and Drew Prohl are in the battle for the lead now, as they have creeped their way into the top 5, as Mike Burnett now having to defend from the 23 of Lawrence, who may be looking to make a move on his teammate in the 2 truck.
And this is one of the major things that popped up during the week. While it was at the Legacy version, that's important to mention in terms of the roughness of the surface, the racing's still the same. The major thing is, it was hard to be the leader unless you had a teammate willing to just stay behind or anybody willing just to push. In this case tonight, we're seeing the draft effect is huge. Since the update, it's very easy to slipstream on by and get a pass.
Yeah, draft is incredibly important in trucks, and we're really starting to see that now as It's almost realistic as draft is really important in the real truck series as well. Draft being one of the more powerful things to use to pass people in the trucks. Scott Healy thought about a move to the inside on Mike Burnett. Burnett blocks it though. Healy to the outside. Burnett blocks again. Healy to the inside. Switchbacks all over the place in the top 5 as Mike Burnett got up to the rear end of the 23 and gave Robert Lawrence a push into the corner. Healy now to the inside of Burnett. Burnett thought about sending it 3 wide on the 23 of Lawrence, and just going to single file back out once again.
Keep in mind, Scott Healy and Drew Pearl, 9 spots apiece already gained to get themselves 4th and 5th here. David Duke starting to slide back as their window expected to open the next couple laps. Keep in mind, this is from Chris Burnham, who did not make the start here tonight. That fuel run got extended 3 laps for anybody who didn't top off because of the caution period. Remember, essentially, 1 pace lap is able to save you about an extra lap or so on the fuel, in theory, so long as you remember to clutch and coast or run in 4th gear. Or both.
Or yeah, I was going to say turn off the engine as well, as that's something, a bit of a strategy we've seen not only in the trucks, but in the Cup car and the Xfinity car as well, as Robert Lawrence making a move to the inside on the 2 of Dustin Hall. And it looks like it's going to be a bit of an easy move, as it looks like Dustin Hall kind of just conceded the position. Or maybe he's saying he wants to push Robert a little bit and save a little bit of fuel.
That is something to keep in mind. It's like you see out of Super Speedway. That's why you keep mentioning Super Speedway like 2. The fuel mileage works the same way. Being the lead truck can be an extra lap or so at Michigan compared to being in the draft, where you're basically, in some circumstances, going half throttle if you don't want to take the lead or don't want to make a pass.
Yeah, I mean, I've had multiple races. Oh, wrecking in the back. Who was that? That is the 23 of Kendall Levron's, the 28 of Kendall Levron. Got incredibly sideways there. No caution, though.
We stay green. That was with contact with Holiday and Charles Abert. Watch in front. A little bit of door bane with Zosiak. Slows things up. And then, hello, Charles.
Oh, we got, if we can go back to live, we got people down pit road. Mike Burnett and Rob Yost Jr. coming down pit road. So
this is on the estimate for the fuel window at the halfway mark for the stage. So this is
more wrecking. RJ
laps.
Root and someone else on the back stretcher around.
No caution, we stay green. Alan Bajari amongst those on the apron. So some of the Prodigy machines having some problems down the back stretch. In particular, it's Root, who ends up getting loose on a checkup, and Bajari getting the worst of it.
Oh, that was contact ahead between Edstrom and Duke, but they kept it straight somehow, and they're still in the draft as well. At least RJ Root is. I don't know about Alan Pajari. I think Pajari may have lost the draft, unfortunately.
Keep in mind, you can lose a lap with the pit stops. Keep that in mind as Burnett amongst those coming out. Here's a look at what you're referring to, though. There's the check, and then bye-bye, trucks.
You remember how the majority of Raymond Root's plate races have gone this season, of course. Take a look back at the season opener in Daytona. He ended up in the inside wall and still somehow finished second that race. Head to Talladega, I believe he ended up upside down in the infield and called it a night. As more people coming down pit road, David Duke, Alan Pajari, I believe that's Dave Fuchs in the back.
So the pit window wide open and more pit stop calls over the radio. And remember, the timing of when you come in and if you have draft when you come out is going to be huge. Burnett already trying to play games with the draft for the time being. He's at the end of the lead lap. He's the only one to pit so far who's still in the lead lap. For everybody else here, if they don't have a dancing partner coming out of the pit lane, they're in trouble. As Halapov doesn't have a dancing partner right now, he's coming in.
Coming in solo, bit of an interesting call there. Keeps it straight, keeps it clean in pit road. Maybe he can catch on to the rear end of the draft here, but again, we're coming up to the pit window for a lot of the guys who pit under that first caution. I believe it should be open this lap, as that caution was on lap 6 or 7. So as we see Alan Pajari coming out of pit road in front of the leaders right here. We'll have to see when these guys decide to come down pit road, as we've had a couple of packs form here. Of course, this lead group of 4, and then behind them, led by Brandon Edstrom, is a group of about 5 or 6. Right behind him, about a second and a half off the lead draft.
An interesting thing to mention, some of the drivers who elected to pit already, no fuel, or rather no tires. So far, Burnett, Abert, and Yost Jr. did take a set of tires. So Halapov, Duke, and Pajari are all on old rubber in the midst of things already. Duke and Halapov are already at risk of losing a lap here, with how their pace has fallen off compared to the front runners. You see that second pack, meanwhile, has fallen off quickly to Pro and company since some of the battles in the checkups, and that's going to be difficult to close.
I tell you what, Halapov may have gone in solo, but he has found himself a couple of dancing partners as he came out right in front of the grouping of Alan Pajari, David Duke, and Mike Burnett. So he has some people to work with to stay within the draft, and now we're just waiting to see when everyone else is going to come down pit road, because you and I both know as soon as lap 19 or lap 20 hits, it is going to be an absolute exodus for pit road. As soon as one car calls that they're pitting, everyone's going to come down and come to pit road.
Well, the fuel run's coming up to 19 laps this time by. For reference, for those who already topped off, here's a look at their margins. Everyone on that exact strategy, everybody else who stayed out already taking the stops. So expect the calls to come down this time, if not the next couple laps here. And this could get tricky right before that pit call too, because those three drivers on old rubber are right in front of the leader.
Yeah, I was fully expecting Robert Lawrence to pull down pit road this time by, but maybe those lappers in front of him have allowed him to save a little bit of fuel, because his lap times have fallen off just a little bit compared to what he was running before those lappers. He was running 39.9s and 40.0s and 1s before the lappers pulled out in front of him. Now he's pulled it back to about 40.5 and 40.6s, so looks like the 23 may be trying to fuel save a little bit and try to pull that lap back and maybe stretch it to 20, as it looks like that's exactly what he's doing.
The interesting thing is, because of that draft and turn, the top four are gaining a couple tenths per lap compared to everybody else. So it's not just about the fuel mileage we're talking about here. We're talking about the ability to run away from the rest of the pack. Here's an interesting thing. They've ditched Drew Prohl in their efforts to run away. Also of note, Brandon Edstrom calling the pit window this time by.
Yeah, it looks like most everyone else is starting to signal that they want to come down pit road. Looks like everyone's trying to make an exodus for that bottom line. Of course, this lead pack thought about lapping the guys in front of them, and they're going for another lap. Interesting strategy playing out as here comes Raymond Root, Brandon Edstrom, and Dave Fudge Jr. down pit road. Edstrom locks it up crucially, though.
No speeding calls yet, though, so the grouping of three, Edstrom, Root, Fudge Jr. look to work together. Keep in mind, the current advantage of those who have pit so far is from the control. The 39 of Mike Burnett, he's on fresh rubber. Now the packs have closed up. Dustin Hall, Robert Lawrence coming in this time by.
Now, here's the question. Does that drag Scott Healy down with him? And it looks like it will. As we should see pretty much everyone else that has, as I say that though, everyone else seems to be going around for a 21st lap, interestingly enough.
No speeding penalties per the flight controls. So Hall and Lawrence both having a big send into the lane. Holiday also coming in this time by. Hearing that the rest of the pit stops expected here, Drew Prohl, Blair Hollyman, Philip Henry, Kevin Sosiak are the only drivers yet to pit this stage. Coming at 10 to go in said stage. Of note, Mike Burnett has come out with Edstrom and Root's pack for the time being in their merge. Speaking of merge, the drivers look to converge into the pit lane, and Drew Prohl just about licked the stamp getting to the cone.
Yeah, getting in a little bit heavy into pit road there. Crucially enough, though, that should promote Mike Burnett into the lead, maybe if not just off the lead, as he was the first car to pit, as that's Dustin Hall, who should be the on-track leader right now. Right behind him is Scott Healy and Robert Lawrence. Bit of a gap between those two guys, so it looks like this is where we're going to see that race start to spread out a little bit and strategy really start to come into play here.
I was about to say, Scott Healy actually came out as the net leader, as the rest of the drivers coming out of the pit lane will not cycle ahead. As a matter of fact, with the undercut, everyone zips by. Scott Healy at the point, 10 to go. And now Mike Burnett's making his moves in the backdrop because he's trying to split the Prodigy trucks up.
That's going to be a tough task right there, trying to split those two teammates up. I know them both personally, and they don't like to be separated at a plate track. So, looks like Mike Burnett may be successful here in splitting those two up, so I guess just disregard whatever I say from here on out. Don't actually do that, please.
Hall now is running away, by the way. You mentioned how it appeared he was up in front. Well, he's definitely out in front. How about 2 seconds? Why am I not surprised?
It's Dustin Hall. He built the setup. Should you really be surprised at all, even if it's just in the slightest? Absolutely not.
Oh, you know, just, I don't know how many Coke Series wins under his belt as the crew chief / builder. I don't know. I think at least a couple championships you can put under the belt of at least his team boss. I don't know.
Yeah, just a hunch, 6th sense, you know, just eyes in the back of your head or something like that.
Stuff like that. You know, after all, there's still a few laps to decide things ain't to go on the stage. He is starting to pull away from Healy and Lawrence, who are trying to work a bit together. Burnett has pulled in front of Edstrom and Root. The next grouping, Prohl, has cycled with Root. Henry's also keeping up to the draft. Then it's Soziak on back. So everybody except for Burnett, Abert, Yost Jr., and Fuchs Jr., or rather I should say John Holiday, did not take tires here. The tires don't seem to be making a difference for Burnett especially. He's only 3/10 quicker than the field.
Yeah, that makes sense. Of course, Michigan being a plate-esque track, as we've so kindly called it throughout the night tonight, is not really known for its tire fall-off when it comes to the trucks. I mean, you put the Xfinity cars and the Cup cars here, it's a whole different ball game, but the trucks being mostly flat out throughout the run, you really don't have to worry about tires all that much. Of course, you got to save that right rear just a little bit, that way you're not wrecking loose or spinning in every corner, as I have learned the hard way multiple times.
Keep in mind, though, with that draft effect, Healy and Lawrence are slowly chipping away. If they get within a second, it could get interesting to close out the stage.
Matter of fact, everyone is catching. Scott Healy within 1.6. Mike Burnett and Edstrom, they're trying to close it in within 2 seconds there. So I think things could get a little bit interesting here. 6 laps to go in the stage. There is time. Mike Burnett is really starting to catch that second group.
He's picked up the draft after all of the top grouping. Keep in mind, though, he's already 15 laps into the fuel run. Many of the others went about 19-ish laps, give it or take a lap. How things played out even with the factor of the caution. So Burnett going to be one of the drivers to keep an eye on if he can get 20 laps out of the tank exact.
Yeah, he may have to do an emergency fuel here just to make sure he has enough fuel to get to the pit stop, as it's going to be very, very tight. Of course, we saw a few people do 21 laps on field, but that's not Mike Burnett. Mike Burnett's been pushing all race. He's been going as hard as possible since he took that original pit stop. So, as you mentioned, keep an eye on that. That is going to be something we need to watch in order to see if Mike Burnett will get stage points or if he'll run out of fuel beforehand.
Under 5 laps to go, coming to 4 to go in the stage. Hall currently up by 1.3, 1.2 seconds. Some drivers want itty-bitty points. Drew Prohl, he wants 5th. He's trying the high side in turn. That high side can work if you squeeze. And he's got some draft to help him finish. Trouble behind him. PB Henry, contact with Raymond up to the wall. Trying to go around the outside of Raymond Root. Root got tight. He scrapes the wall.
PB Henry, though, keeping it straight crucially, as he looks like he's going to keep that battle going for that position. I believe that's for 7th, either 6th or 7th position. Yeah, that's for a battle for 7th position. Henry, though, to the outside here on the replay. Looks like he gets a lot better of a run. Puts the air on the rear end of the 7. Wonder if that air, in turn, put that a little bit of extra tightness on that truck and put him up into the wall.
The word is coming from the back row bandits camp. 2 laps to the good for fuel for Burnett. The draft is down to a second for second, third, and the rest of the gang. So now the battle potentially could be on here if they can close. 2 to go in the stage. Hall still with the advantage as we start lap 39. Pit road is closed.
Here comes Dustin Hall, or excuse me, yeah, that's Dustin Hall. I forgot who I was looking at for a second. Dustin Hall through turns 1 and 2, trying to close that gap, or excuse me, extend that gap as much as he can. Of course, now within just over a second there to Scott Healy. Looks like Dustin Hall is getting into the corners really good, but these guys are just gapping him down the straightaways with being able to push, as is customary at a plate track. So this is going to get very interesting. If they can get that down to about 9/10 of a second, then that draft should start to take effect for Scott Healy.
They lost time, though, through 1 and 2. Robert Lawrence apparently packed air on the spoiler, according to Healy's comms. Well, when you're running that close, it packs air on. As with the white flag waves, this should just about seal it for Dustin Hall, so long as he doesn't make a mistake through 3 and 4.
Of course, Robert Lawrence and Scott Healy going to be pushing as aggressively as they can. That gap starting to edge down closer to the 0.8 of a second bracket, but it's not going to be enough through 3 and 4.
Green and white checkered coming out at the flag stand. No move yet, no move at all. Dustin Hall wins the stage. At the halfway point as the yellow flag waves. Healy, Lawrence, Burnett, Prohl, Edstrom, Henry, Root, Zosiak, and Hollyman are in your top 10 here tonight. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll sort things out for the second half of the race. It's a one-stopper to the end. You're watching Grid Vision for the final race of the SSRL Truck Series season from Michigan.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back for the second half of the race where the Choose Cone has showed up to work. And now, the Choose Cone gets to view the pack. It's going to be a little close for some. We'll see how things play out. Drew Prohl taking the lead in the pit cycle. Interestingly enough, he had a 9-second pit stop because he only took 2 tires. Even though it's a track where, in theory, the tires do not wear so much, that's still an interesting call. The reason being, NC Open competition, which is about the same length, give or take a little bit longer Most drivers ditched whoever took 2 tires within a lap.
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting to watch, as usually taking 2 tires at a track like Michigan is going to result in a very, very loose race car. So would not be surprised at all to see Drew Prohl going back incredibly quickly here on this restart, as most everyone should know already that he took 2 tires. So I expect him to get left for dead pretty quickly.
Healy is on the outside for the restart, or rather inside. Prohl is on the outside. You have Lawrence on the inside, Burnett choosing outside, Edstrom inside, Henry outside, Root inside, Soziak outside, Hyman inside, Duke outside. 17 trucks still running for the season finale here at Michigan. Prohl in control in his teal and pink machine. You're looking from Healy as they go through the gears for the green. And here comes Burnett. He's looking for second.
Already seeing a lot of aggressive moves here, as these guys not really wanting to sit behind the 90 of Drew Prohl, the 80 of Drew Prohl, has already looked 3 wide for just a moment for the lead, and Prohl is going backwards quickly as he's already lost upwards of 5 positions just in 2 corners.
He didn't even try and contend for the lead. Already up top side. Prohl trying to run high and very loose in turn. Up to the point is Burnett for the time being. Healy leads the outside. Lawrence is already looking to set things up as Healy wants the point himself.
To the outside of Mike Burnett there for the lead. Burnett still leads the lap, but Healy looking to attack and get that position back from Mike Burnett, as Healy may have gotten a little bit loose on the entry there. And now he's got the 74 of Edstrom for company, who's going to get a push from championship rival PB Henry.
Very, very dicey to say the least. Some of these moves already. A big squeeze in turn, a little too close. Burnett nearly turned Healy. He gives him a break there. It's 3 wide for the lead. It's Henry's got his best shot at the point.
Here comes Edstrom, though, looking to the outside, possibly 4 wide. But they clear 3 wide now. Edstrom to the outside. Healy blocks it. Edstrom gives him a little bit of breathing room there through turns 1 and 2. He said maybe now, but not later in the race, as Burnett maybe gets a little bit loose.
Burnett nearly cleared himself across Healy in turn. Here comes a big block on Edstrom. Healy racing like it's the last lap. Edstrom up to race high second. Healy slips up. Here comes Edstrom.
To the inside, Brandon Edstrom. He's going to have a little bit of help from the 25 of PB Henry, but Scott Healy has more help from Mike Burnett for just a moment. That gives him the push he needs to stay side by side with Edstrom, but he's going to give it up into the corner. Now Mike Burnett looks all the way to the outside. He's a couple of lanes higher than Edstrom. Edstrom, though, solo leader now.
Not for long. Burnett going to the inside. All sorts of back and forth here. About 4 laps into the run already. Burnett clears. Now who's next to try and fight for the lead? Edstrom. Looking to build up high. They swap. They try and fake out. Burnett can't block them all as Edstrom goes inside.
You can only make your car so wide at a track like Michigan, and I can guarantee you Mike Burnett's crew chief is trying to tell him to make that car as wide, that truck as wide as possible, but especially at a track here where you're having to block 5 or 6 lanes, it's almost impossible, as now lines are starting to form here. Alliances are starting to be built. Robert Lorenz pushing the 39 of Mike Burnett. And it looks like Raymond Root leaving his teammate for dry right now is now there side by side for 3rd position. And Robert Lawrence to the inside of the 39 of Mike Burnett. Burnett's going to have the run on the outside here. And it looks like at the line should be Robert Lawrence.
This is still not yet over, to say the very least, with how this is going, though. Nobody's really been able to dictate this race lead off this jump. Still 2 by 2 across the field. And Amonso's trying to gain a lot of spots back here. Dustin Hall lost some ground in the pit stop cycle. Drew Prohl, interesting enough, now that he's gotten comfortable in the 2 tires, he's not afraid to push now himself too.
Yeah, you know that old saying, Justin, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, and she hasn't even started warming up yet, as we're just barely about to eclipse lap 50 here, and these guys are racing like it's the last lap of the Daytona 500, and I am here for it. This is some very exciting racing as Robert Lorenz throws a heinous block on the 7 of Raymond Root.
Now 3 wide. Root couldn't get to the outside. Now a big slide up from Hall as he tries the side draft.
Oh,
In
getting a
turn,
little
though,
bit.
Oh, that's got to be really tricky, though, with all this. Burnett is in this position where he can try and play the lines. This could be difficult the rest of the way to make the pass unless you get help.
Yeah, it is going to be very hard to be able to build the momentum needed to get around the 39 of Mike Burnett. Burnett looks like he has an incredibly quick truck right now, and he seems to have the key to success here. But now as Robert Lorenz gets a pretty good push from the 64 Scott Healy, Root thought about a move to the outside there, but decided better him, as it would have been a little bit risky this early in the race. Robert Lorenz, though, gets a little bit loose on the inside of the 39 of Mike Burnett, and it looks like Burnett's going to keep that lead for just a little bit longer as Scott Healy now coming up to the rear end of the 23 of Robert Lorenz, trying to keep that inside line going. Root trying to get up to the 39 of Mike Burnett to keep that outside line going. And you know what I say every plate race, Justin, it's a game of momentum.
And keep in mind, at the back of the field, Charles Abert still holding on to the draft. Everybody except for Abert essentially is in the main pack right now. Burnett now choosing the high side. An interesting note, during the long runs in official racing, the trends seemed to go to high side racing in 1 and 2 as the run went on. It hasn't really been the case per se for much of the night. Burnett is trying to get that line working like the official racing, though.
You also got to remember that was at the Legacy Michigan, which is a lot more of a top-heavy track compared to the newer scan of Michigan, so that is to be expected, but that outside line definitely seems to be working here. I don't think anything up by the wall is going to be seen tonight, but I wouldn't be surprised, and right as I say that, they thought about trying it there.
Up to the point, Lawrence getting the better run through 1 and 2, and he now slides up with the help of Scott Healy. So in turn, let's think about strategy for a second, because remember, to be good on gas, need to get to at least lap 60. It's going to be a little tight, but with the time of the restart, it may be likely doable for most of the field.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult to be able to get to that lap 60 mark, though, as these guys have been racing like it's the last lap for the last 13, 14 laps, so this will be something to keep an eye on, as a lot of these guys maybe not fuel saving. Mike Burnett definitely not saving, as he was sideways getting into the corner there, but it's going to allow him to get a nose on the 23 of Robert Lorenz. He's got the help from the 64 of Healy on the outside, who's got the help from the 25 of Henry, who's got the help from the 74 of Edstrom. That outside line is formed and moving. Healy now to the outside of the 39 of Burnett, as Burnett's going to fall back a little bit here to try and get the help from the 23 of Robert Lorenz, and that outside line now, or excuse me, that inside line now seems to be formed up a little bit more. So, like I said, it's a game of numbers and a game of momentum, and it's switching almost every corner now.
In turn, Healy looking to switch the momentum his way on the high side. Burnett clears himself in front of the pack. Healy not looking to work with him from that one. Henry now forced to work with him. Lawrence backs it up. Healy gets shoved out of the way by Burnett. Still 2x2 as Burnett gets hit by Henry to the corner. Burnett drifts his way down to the bottom.
Oh, and he gives a hip check to the 64 Healy. No love lost between your two leaders. Lawrence to the inside now. Give that lap to Scott Healy by just over a half of a tenth of a second there. 3 wide for second place now as Lawrence trying to get up to the 64 Healy. Almost a little bit of contact. Mike Burnett takes it to the inside, and now these guys are starting to get a little bit hairy here as we're getting closer and closer to that pit window opening. Henry a little bit loose down the backstretch.
Henry's looking topside for the race lead. Watch for a move from him as Burnett loses ground on the bottom.
Oh,
He
damn
nearly
it,
gets
Duke.
hit. Duke trying to help out Burnett, but they're all losing ground. Edstrom gets squished by Prohl.
Drew Prohl not taking any prisoners here. Edstrom gets in front of the 39 of Mike Burnett, and that's how quickly tides can change at a track like Michigan. You could be Mike Burnett going from first to 7th in the span of a lap there, and Mike Burnett's sitting there saying, what just happened?
Well, what just happened was he lost the lead. Healy is now in that lead. Rudamatzo's working high side, up to the bottom. Healy slides up in front of Henry, and Henry so far has been content to push the 64. There's the technical issues he talked about before the race coming in at the worst possible time because Raymond Root wants to pass him.
Now this is going to be where this is going to be where we're going to start to see things start to calm down a little bit as these guys know they're getting closer and closer to that pit window. Should be here in the next couple of laps for the majority of these guys. Of course, Robert Lorenz leading the majority of that or near in the lead, so Lorenz may be the first one to come down pit road. Mike Burnett's another name that'll probably come down pretty early, so things are going to start to heat up here as Lawrence gets a little bit loose, almost up into the 80 of Drew Prohl further back.
Still side by side now. This is the battle pack for third. Lawrence doesn't have the help though, and Edstrom stays on the top side, has the next chance to be able to let him in if he so chooses. So you mentioned that pit window coming in here. It's going to be critical to make sure you communicate here too, because you forget to tell people about pit stops, this could be trouble.
Oh yeah, we've seen many of wrecks coming from pit stop cycles starting and people not knowing about it, but this league's been pretty good when it comes to announcing their pit stops. As now here comes Raymond Root with help from Drew Prohl trying to get in on this battle for the lead as they're side by side up front between Scott Healy and PB Henry. Looks like PB may have the run into the corner. And Scott Healy now trying to get any help that he can as Raymond Root all the way up into the top line, trying to get up and get help as here comes Lawrence. Oh, we got a lot of trucks in the wall. 4 or 5 trucks hitting the wall.
Lawrence went to the wall, several at the back went to the wall, including Zosiak. Everybody got tight. Oh, by the way, Trevor Halapoff started off the pit window.
Halapoff down pit road. Now we're going to start to see more and more people come down, as now we're starting to eclipse that 20-lap mark right now. 20 laps just hit right now as Scott Healy crossed the line there. Looking at a grid vision replay here. I believe this may have been everyone hitting the wall off of turn 2. Yeah, it was.
That bit of contact cost him the lead. In turn, it dropped him back to third. No damage. He stays up front. Under 20 laps to go, expecting pit stops to start here in the next minute because Pajari wants to pit. Expect a lot of others to want to pit in a moment or so too. We'll see if anyone else is keeping their strategy secret. Mike Burnett is. He's coming in right now.
Mike Burnett's in. Pajari's in. Only 2 drivers for now, but we saw how crazy it got once people realized that others were starting to pit, and I believe we should start to see the majority of the rest of the field start to announce their pit intentions as they come down the back straightaway here.
Dave Food Jr. coming in this time. Here comes Sealy to the inside. Root trying to hold on the outside line. Expect a lot of others to peel on in this time, but the 11, both Root and Healy up the hillside. They at the very least aren't coming in. Nobody's joining Dave in the pit lane this time though. Here's the run for the lead as Root has help.
Oh, but PB Henry goes back up to help Scott Healy. That 25 seems to be playing the lines here, but it looks like Root may get clear of the 64. Throughout turns 1 and 2, he's going to go up to block. Healy gives him the old up and under, and still a side-by-side for the lead. David Duke announcing his intentions to come down pit road. John Holliday also announcing his intentions, and this is going to get interesting here. I believe Mike Burnett may be on fresh tires, and a lot of these guys may think about pitting here. Holloman coming down pit road as well.
Burnett unlaps himself. Here comes the pit party. Duke, Hollyman, Holiday, Yost Jr. are all in. They're all running at the back end of the top 10 or in the teens before the pit stop.
Watch for Rob Yost Jr. He was your pole sitter, and he's been sitting in the back the majority of the night. So I wonder if that's a plan to try and save his truck a little bit for the end, as these guys have been getting really, really crazy. And Raymond Root announcing he's coming down pit road. That should bring the rest of the field down. Philip Henry and Drew Prohl coming down pit road now, or announcing that they're going to come down pit road. So that should bring the rest of this lead group down.
Drew Prohl is in. Here come the rest of them. Prohl sending it a bit deep. No speeding penalties all day today. That remains the case as they go in side by side. Also, we have more news. For the second time this season, Jordan Sailors has blown up the Choose Car's engine.
Oh, boy. Come on.
So in other words, we need the race to stay green because we no longer have the Choose Car. Oh, by the way, we'll see how this all plays out.
Ooh, right side is only for Raymond Root. Edstrom electing to take 4 tires here, as is the majority of the rest of the group that just came down pit road. So Raymond Root maybe taking a book from Dustin Hall, trying to build a little bit of a gap for this final run. So here comes Mike Burnett to pass the majority of these cars coming out of pit road here, and it looks like he will get past all of them except Raymond Root.
16 laps to go, and that means the pit window's closed with the strategy. RJ Root is in the lead. So now Mike Burnett to second on older tires, Healy in third, Hollyman, and Halapov on an undercut is in the top 5 for now. So we'll take a quick step aside while we can, and we'll get the run to the finish right after the break. You're watching Grid Vision.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Grid Vision for more coverage of the SSRL Truck Series and its season finale. We've had near contact several times already since the pit stop window. And Raymond Root's lead is shrinking and rapidly. It's down to under 1.6 seconds. Once again, he's on 2 tires, no drafting help. He's losing on average about a couple tenths, if not 6 tenths a lap. We'll see how this plays out with Lawrence, Hall, Edstrom, Henry, and Healy amongst those in the top 5 or 6 right behind them.
I was talking to you about it during the break, Justin. I can almost guarantee this race is not going to finish under green. Excuse me. This pack especially is getting absolutely insane with the moves they're making, and I can't see any way they finish without at least one spin.
Down to the final 10 laps. Tempers are flaring across the field. Keep in mind, John Holliday, Dave Fuchs Jr., Rob Yost Jr. have all lost the draft. Some of those drivers nearly just crashed. Of note, Howapov and Blair Hoyman have also lost the tow. So it's down to a 10-truck pack, maybe 9, depending on if Duke can keep up. Because everybody else just caught up to Root.
Within the draft now of Raymond Root, 0.6 of a second and closing quickly, 0.4 of a second now. Lawrence within the draft, and he is catching quick here. Will Raymond Root throw a block here, trying to stop this momentum? That remains to be seen, as that's going to have to wait till going into turn 3 to see what Root decides to do here. Sticking to that second line off of turn number 2. When is the move made? It's going to be almost immediately, it looks like. Root, though, going to let it happen.
Side by side for the point. Fresher tires take the lead. Robert Lawrence showing draft and friends outweigh track position here. Dustin Hall looking for second and turn. Here's the thing. Root's now got some help with Edstrom to try and keep up.
Here comes the push from Edstrom. It's going to keep him in front of the 2 of Dustin Hall for just a moment. Healy, though, to the inside of the 74 of Edstrom. Now he wants in on this battle. Maybe looking to the inside of the 2 of Dustin Hall. Things starting to kick off in a big way. A little bit of contact between Healy and Edstrom there. They keep it straight, though, as Healy now to the rear end of the 2, trying to keep that inside line going. Root, though, on the outside, trying as Root slips. Oh, he somewhat saves it, keeps it going, no caution.
We stay green. That almost was a big pileup. Kevin Soziak loses some ground. Surprisingly, don't think anybody had any damage from it.
The only damage there was emotional damage for Raymond Root there, as it looks like most everyone was able to stay in the draft, as it looks like Scott Healy now with Drew Prohl trying to battle it out a little bit here for third position as we go take a look at the replay.
And this is what happens when you take 2 tires. There was a little push, yes, towards entry, but it got loose very fast.
Somehow managed to save that. I don't understand how he was able to keep that straight. And that could be the one spin these guys had before lap 80, as now things may look to start to kick off again, as Scott Healy already talking some smack towards the 2 of Dustin Hall over the radio there.
Healy wanting to try and see if he can get his first win of the season here. He's been one of the drivers making some late season charges. Can he get it done in just his 6th start in the trucks? His best finish, 2nd at Bristol. He was also contender for parts of other races this season. But it's not going to be easy with 2 Team Conti drivers coming to 5 laps to go. Keep in mind, one of the main philosophies for that respective group in official racing and league racing, help one another to the very end.
Yeah, that Team Conti group is a tough group to crack when it comes to these plate-esque tracks, as Healy now to the rear end of the 2 of Dustin Hall, firmly within the draft here. Looks to the outside for just a moment, but it doesn't look like he's got any room to work with there. Ooh, Dustin Hall getting a little bit loose there on the entry of turn 3, but everyone keeps it straight for now.
And it's not going to work for Healy either unless he gets some help from Drew Prohl. Here's the thing. Prohl's not getting close enough to help. Neither is Edstrom here with under 4 laps to go now.
At this point, this is Robert Lawrence or Dustin Hall's race to lose here, as they control their own destiny, as Scott Healy almost to the rear end of the 2 of Dustin Hall. Prohl now starting to pick up the pace. Looks like he's going to get to the rear end for just a moment before starting to back off a little bit.
Coming to 3 to go. Hall continuing to try and help out his teammate. Lawrence is going up the track though. Here comes Hall with the run to the inside. He's going for the lead. Healy looks to the inside with them. Side by side, now Healy ditches Hall. Hall's got no help. Lawrence tries to hold up top side.
Healy giving a push to the 23 of Lawrence through turns 1 and 2. Looks like Dustin Hall is going to get left out to dry here. As Scott Healy now maybe looking to the inside, 3 wide, but he keeps it 2 wide there. Gives the push to the 23 of Lawrence. Drew Prohl now with that outside line. Edstrom trying to come up to help his, I guess technically new boss over at Team Conti. And it doesn't look like it's going to get him very far. But as I say that, Dustin Hall getting a really good run through the corner.
Lawrence still holds on. Hall nearly clears himself. 2 laps to go. 4 more miles to go on the season. Healy looking for second still. Lawrence still has some help from his teammate and team boss as they look to try and hold and play the lines for the point.
Scott Healy now to the outside of the 2 of Dustin Hall. Robert Lawrence goes down to help his teammate in Dustin Hall. Scott Healy needs any help he can get. Dustin Hall goes up to side draft possibly, but it doesn't look like it's going to do much as Pro gives the push needed to the 64. Scott Healy. It's now Robert Lawrence on the outside, helping that outside line a little bit. Dustin Hall, he has a nose over the 23 of Robert Lawrence. White flag in the air.
Final time around on the season. Healy shoves Lawrence forward. Hall gets shuffled back. There goes the help for the 23. Healy looking for one more setup for the back straightaway. Hall looking to hold on to the bottom.
Dustin Hall trying everything he can to keep with his 23 teammate in Robert Lawrence. Healy blocks. He splits up the Team Conti teammates. Now goes back up to the outside as they head down into turn 3. He really doesn't have any help. This is going to get really close off of 4.
This is for the final checker flag of the season. Lawrence, Healy amongst those looking for their first wins. Lawrence gets some help out the side draft onto Healy. Lawrence plays the block. Checker flag. It's Lawrence who wins the final race of the season. Healy, Hall, Edstrom, and Prohl, the top 5. And with that, you can also give the crown officially now to the champion. Brandon Edstrom needed to just start tonight to win the title. He gets a top 5 to put some icing on top of that championship cake.
What a race to finish off the season. Action throughout. That has got to be a contender for best race of the season right there.
And Robert Lawrence able to hold off the field tonight to take the victory. One of the late season additions for this series. Gets it done here tonight. It's his 4th start. And he came close at Chicagoland back at the end of November. He was also a top 5 contender at Phoenix. It's burnout time for Robert Lawrence. And as well, for your champion, once again, it's Brandon Edstrom who also gets to burn it on down. Lawrence takes the win tonight, 0.075 seconds the difference. Hall, Edstrom, and Prohl, your top 5. Henry, Zolciak, Burnett, Hollyman, and Duke, your top 10 unofficially.
Finishing in 11th place tonight, Raymond Root after getting really loose there in turn, I believe that was turn 4. Trevor Halapaugh finishing in 12th. John Holiday at 13th. Dave Fuge 14th with Rob Yost Jr., your pole sitter tonight, finishing in 15th. Charles Abert 16th, and Alan Pachari rounds off the field with Kendall Leveron in 18th.
That's all we talked about, Matt, the running order here tonight to close out the season. It's Lawrence in victory lane on one side. It's Edstrom on the other. On the other side of this break, we'll talk with your top runners and your champion. You're watching the SSRL Truck Series from Michigan. You're on Grid Vision. Welcome back, everyone, to post-race coverage for the SSRL Truck Series here this evening on Grid Vision. Just Prince Nick Stein with you, Austin Johnny Shaw producing. So let's take the opportunity to speak with your front runners first before heading to your champion for the crowning of said title here this evening. We start things off with the setup builder in just his second start. It's a top 3 run for Dustin Hall. Dustin, talk us through those final laps as you look to try and get the W tonight. 15 laps led, however. You and your teammate won more than half the race, in fact, as a group, and just about.
Hey, Justin. Good to hear your voice, man. Yeah, it was a good race. I ended up inside, or on the inside of Robbie. They're out of turn 4 by accident. He went to the top, and I had no idea he was going to. I just ran the regular line and ended up next to him, and Scott had already filled the hole, so there was nowhere for me to go back up to. So it was pretty much committed. I had to try and make it happen on the bottom at that point. And I mean, inside of 5, it's every man for himself. So it was a fun race. I mean, the guys gave room. There was some fender rubbing and door rubbing and whatnot, but nothing egregious. Net code stayed away, which is remarkable. And I mean, it was a great time, great race.
In turn, though, you've been the setup builder throughout this series this season. What in turn drew your attention to come to the racetrack in turn after getting the chance to watch the races? What was the thing that made you say, you know what, let's run in the races too?
A couple of things, Justin. Number one, Dave can be very convincing. He kind of would poke at it all season long, and I decided, you know what, these races look clean. They look like there's some really good competition. It looks like a great time. So that in itself was probably enough. But the bigger proponent for me to make the decision to race, I'd say, is, I want to make sure that what I'm putting out for this league is fun to race. It's racy. It doesn't just kill a right front tire or right rear tire, or make sure that the driver can influence how the truck wears. And the only way for me to really be able to do that is to actually get in the truck in the races and put it through the test. And so really a desire to give this league the product they deserve.
So in turn, with the full series schedule already provisionally out for 2024, first, do we see you return in the same role or same capacity? 2, do we see you in the full series for 2024?
You know how it is during the regular season for the other commitments I have. I would love to be able to race the entire series. To be able to commit to it, I can't. However, I hope they bring me back to build these setups, and I think that from what I've seen in the racing and in the broadcast, first of all, you guys do a great job. Secondly, you've had a pretty good product to work with in most of these races. You've had good battles throughout the field and some really good finishes, really good battles to the end. So hopefully I get invited back to build for the league. Depends on what night they run, whether or not you guys will be seeing much of the 2 truck next year.
Indeed. Anyone you want to give a shout out to real quickly?
Of course, I've got to give a big shout out, big thanks to Team Conti GG for letting me skip out of the business role side of things and have some fun. Martin PC, God, these guys have me running top notch. Brian Haynes is one of the best guys I've ever worked with in terms of getting me equipped with the right equipment and not just me, but any customer he's dealt with. Got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. You guys do a great job. SSRL for putting on the league. Robbie for not wrecking me at the end, because he has a tendency to do that. That was half joke, but no, thanks a lot to everybody who makes this happen.
Well, thank you very much for the time once again.
Thank you, Justin.
Dustin Hall comes away with the top 3 here tonight. Second spot goes to Scott Healy. He's with Nick.
Scott Healy, what an amazing race tonight. We saw you beating and banging with a lot of guys tonight, and you ended up coming home with the second place. You think you could have gotten the win tonight, or was it that just too much of an ask?
If I could have kept the lead, I probably could have. The last couple of laps, knowing that I lost the lead, going back into like P4 and P5, back to P3, battling back and forth, it was gonna be difficult. You know, if I just had one more lap, I probably could have gotten it, but unfortunately, that wasn't the case. So, you know, I'll take P2. It seems like P2 is my new P1, so I'll take as much as I can tonight.
Well, it seems like everyone always says you need one more lap to be able to get it done, but looking ahead in next year, can we expect to see you running full-time in the Truck Series, or are we seeing you in other leagues?
We'll see. My work schedule is kind of here and there. It's iffy, so we'll see how many races I can put in. During the summertime, it's probably not the best. During the wintertime, I have layoffs, so I'm home all the time. But during the summertime, I'm never home, so it's it'll be spotty for sure if it's in the summertime. I don't know when the full season of the Truck Series is, but we'll see.
Well, congratulations on the P2 tonight. Scott, before we let you go, who you got to thank?
I'd like to thank you guys. Do an amazing job broadcasting. David Fuge, he's an amazing guy, allowing me to run the trucks and Cup Series when I can. Friends, family, my wonderful girlfriend, and that's really it. And the two guys that, you know, that was really tough, Team Conti, the DS Hall, and Robert, they did an amazing job, so congrats to them.
Well, congratulations on the P2 again, Scott. We hope to see you next year.
I appreciate it. Have a good New Year's, have a good Christmas, and catch you guys soon.
Once again, that's Scott Healy coming away second once again, his second in a while. Robert Lawrence gets his first win of the season to close out said season. Robert, get it done here tonight in just your fourth total start in the series. Talk us through those final laps. And as your bio says, ye feller, you get it done.
Yeah, I somehow ended on top on that one. I was fully expecting to have someone to ship it down to the bottom to come sliding up, but we all played pretty clean there. Dustin somehow kept it off my door. He struggles with getting out of the corner sometimes, but it's all right. But no, it was a blast coming down to the end there. We were battling. Dustin and I were working well together. He was giving me great pushes off the corner. Couldn't ask for anything better. And then into 3, for whatever reason, I couldn't get her to turn. So I ended up going high and got us separated. So I tried working to try to get us back together. And oh, it was chaos towards the end there. Trying to keep both lanes at bay at the same time it's a workout.
So in turn, we've seen you perform very well in each of these races since jumping into the SSRL Truck Series. We heard Dustin Hall's attraction to the series. What was your main attraction to be able to run these races? It's just your second top 3, yes, to get the chance to speak with us. But you get the win done with the champion season also coming to a close, or at least for the winter break.
Yeah. As soon as that kicks back, well, actually, I won't be a part of that Champion League anymore because they changed some stuff up. But they will. There's a spin-off NIS truck race going that they'll be putting on. Full-length truck races. Stage breaks, all that fun stuff. So we'll see what's going on there. I'm unfortunately getting the removal from that group, but it was a great run there. Main draw to come over here was my builder, Mr. Dustin Hall, again. He posted this in our Discord, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you guys see what this is all about?" And I came right over, and it's been a blast ever since. Some great guys, great racers, clean but aggressive at the same time. You couldn't ask for anything better.
So in turn, we heard from Dustin Hall, it depends more so on the date for a full-time commitment, let alone the part-time. Do we see you a full-time commitment? From what can tell, to answer the question, I believe he was having tentatively looking to Wednesdays for next spring all the way to November?
That might be a possibility. All kind of depends on what goes on with the future races. Depends on if I go to the Road to Pro stuff, so I'll focus my efforts towards there. But if I don't, then I'll probably come around to this a little more often. I'll try to. What I'll say is I'll try to do this as much as I can.
Anyone want to give a shout out to here tonight?
Oh, obviously, Team Conti. I can't thank those guys enough. Being a very close friend to a lot of them, and especially to Dustin. He's like one of my best friends on here, so it's nice to race with him. He doesn't get to race opens very often, so it's fun to race him in the leagues. But thank Team Conti, thank you guys for putting on the broadcast, dealing with the shenanigans that it seems to go on in here. And then thank SSRL, thank you to them, and thank you to everyone that puts us on. It's a great league, great people, and just a fantastic league overall.
Once again, congratulations, Robert, on the run here tonight.
Thank you.
Robert gets the win, and in turn, Brandon Edstrom gets the championship. Why not? Nick, why don't you give Brandon the championship interview as his former teammate?
Oh man, I feel special getting to do this. Brandon Edstrom, man. First league championship. How does it feel, brother?
Oh man, it feels incredible. Absolutely incredible to come in all year long and, you know, have a first rough few weeks getting wrecked for the win at Daytona, getting turned at Charlotte, getting my nose cut off at Richmond, to come back and just have consistent finishes all throughout and come home with a very decent point lead into this last race and win the damn thing. It feels really good. Absolutely.
Man, you came home with a 4th position tonight, but you realistically didn't even need to start this race in order to win to the championship. Did that really play into how you were planning on running this race, or was it all gas, no brakes from the start?
Well, I told my teammate RJ, I want to be really careful. I just want to finish. And then after that stage pit stop and we were all 4 wide, I was like, that looks like way too much fun. I want to go do that. So at that point, I pretty much knew that there was nothing that Philip could do. And at that point, it was just I went to go join the big boys up front, tried to do everything I could, but they just saved their stuff a lot better in the middle of the corner. And I burnt the right front up a little bit, but thankfully was still fast enough at the end to get P4.
Looking ahead to next year, you've already mentioned your intentions to run the SSRL Masters Series, but will we expect you in the Truck Series next season for a full-time ride?
Oh, Truck Series full-time, absolutely. With the way that the truck is right now, it's just a lot of fun. No offense to the A car, but the A car is pretty much on rails almost every single week, and with these trucks, I mean, you saw it here tonight. The racing was just absolutely cracked. I mean, there was moments where I thought we were 4-3, and then my spotter said clear, and I cut off the nose of Phillip, almost killed us both. And in the A car, I just feel like you can't do that. You just got to save too much. But in the truck, when it's time to go, you can go, and it's a lot of fun when you can.
Of course, you and I were talking earlier, and you said you got a little bit of an essay you want to read off if you were able to get an interview tonight. So go ahead and let you do that real quick.
Yeah, I kind of wrote a book. First, I want to thank Prodigy Esports and Alex Murray for bringing me on earlier in the year, believing in me and teaching me everything that I know. I want to thank my friends, you, Nick, RJ, Matt Power, Ben Tubbs, all the homies for tuning in and supporting me all year. I want to thank my mom for bringing me to the short track when I was a kid and introducing me into racing and developing me into who I am today. My fiance, who's on the couch right now, for her endless support and love throughout the journey this year. All of our sponsors, Northern Alliance on mental illness, for all the work they do with those who suffer from mental health issues. No Kid Hungry for providing 10,000 meals a day. Team Conti for all their support. P1 Coffee, Shamrock Auto Care. And I think some of the most important is when you guys at Grid Vision for a great season. Austin, Nick, Justin, Taylor, and all of you who make Grid Vision what it is. All the league competitors for one hell of a battle all season long. And last but not least, Dave Huge Jr. and Jordan Sailors for all the work they do for SSRL. If it wasn't for Dave sending me an invite to this thing, we wouldn't be here, and I finally get to say that I'm a champion in something on iRacing, and I think that means at least, I think that means a little something.
Well, congratulations tonight, Brandon. Of course, I know you're going to go celebrate this one. Absolutely insane like you always do. So, man, we're going to go let you do that, man. Congratulations on the championship.
I'm gonna go chug like 6 Ronas in a row and then go run outside. So you guys have a good rest of your night.
I fully expected him to say that, and I'm still surprised when he said it.
See you guys.
Once again, that's Brandon Edstrom picking up the championship. I'd like to thank him and the entire top 3 for taking the time to speak to us during post-race coverage here on Grid Vision. With the season coming to a close tonight, Nick, your final thoughts, especially when it comes to not just this season and the championship, but also this being the final broadcast of the year for Grid Vision.
You know, coming into tonight, I didn't realize this was the complete final broadcast for the year for Grid Vision, so bit of a surprise to me, but I mean, hey, it was a pretty great year all around, I think. Got my first gig commentating with you guys, commentated a NIS race, and that was a lot of fun, and, you know, seemed to be dealing with me, so I guess that means I get to stay for another year, so man, it was an absolute blast to be able to call with all you this year. And, of course, got to look at the race tonight. That was just action-packed. That's the only word I can think of to describe that. It was just insane all throughout. You had battles left, right, center, up, down, north, south, east, west. Any other adjectives you can think of, it was there tonight. So just an absolutely amazing race Michigan put on this year. And, man, I'm just sad that this is the last commentary job I get to do this year.
And in turn, it was an exciting season throughout, to say the very least, for the SSRL, with plenty of competitive races from the onset. In turn, throughout this championship this season, we had a grand total of 8 different winners over the course of 12 races here on Grid Vision. Keep in mind, tentative schedules currently slot the series starting February the 21st from Daytona. For more information, be sure to stay tuned to Grid Vision social media platforms and to the Spartan Sim Racing League social media platforms to keep an eye on when the races are set to go, whether it's the SSRL Masters, the Premier Series, the trucks, its planned Mod Tour and Late Model Series, or the Cash for Dash, so to speak. That's amongst the many planned series tentatively for 2024. On that note, though, it's time to say goodbye. For my co-announcer once more of Nick Stein, for our producer in Austin Derbyshire, I'm Justin Prince saying so long. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening. You've been watching the SSRL Truck Series and its series finale for 2023 from Michigan International Speedway. Congratulations to Brandon Edstrom, your 2023 and inaugural series champion.